Your arrival at these words is not a product of chance or idle curiosity. It is a meticulously orchestrated event in the quantum field, a cosmic appointment you set for yourself long ago. This readiness you feel, that subtle yet persistent hum beneath the surface of your daily life, is not something you've earned through disciplined practice or spiritual rigor. It is not an achievement. It is an inevitability. It has been building, layer by imperceptible layer, with every heartbeat, every sorrow, every unexpected joy of your existence. Each experience, from the most mundane to the most catastrophic, was a necessary calibration, a fine-tuning of your consciousness to a specific resonant frequency. Think of it like a crystal glass that has been subjected to a precise, sustained sonic vibration. For years, the vibration was subtle, strengthening the crystal's structure. But now, the frequency has reached its critical threshold, the point at which the glass doesn't just resonate with the sound. It is ready to shatter into a more refined form, revealing the essence of its crystalline nature. That shattering is not destruction, it is liberation. The quantum field, the intelligent, infinite potential from which all reality emerges, does not operate on randomness. It is a field of perfect precision. It doesn't send a message until the receiver is perfectly configured to integrate it. If your consciousness were not already complete in its readiness, these opening sentences would have been dismissed as nonsensical, and your attention would have drifted. But you are still here, something deeper than your rational mind, something ancient and wise within you, recognized the frequency of this transmission. It recognized the signal it has been waiting for. The feeling you've had lately, that sensation of standing at the precipice of a monumental shift, is not mere anticipation. It is the conscious recognition of a change that has already happened at the quantum energetic level. What you are feeling is the aftershock. The tectonic plates of your reality have already shifted beneath the surface. Now, you're simply waiting for the mountains and valleys on the surface to reflect this new geography. To truly grasp this, let's make it practical. Reflect on the last few weeks or months. Have you had moments of profound clarity that seem to come from nowhere? Have you found yourself losing interest in dramas, conflicts, and goals that once consumed you? Have you felt a strange sense of detachment, not of apathy, but of being an observer watching a play unfold, even when you are one of the actors on stage? These are not symptoms of depression or disconnection. These are the signs of your consciousness beginning to disidentify from the character it has been playing. It is pulling back, preparing to see the whole stage for what it is. The words on this page are merely a vehicle, a carrier wave. The real message is not in the syntax or the semantics. It is being transmitted in the silent spaces between the words, in the resonance that is being established between this field of information and the field of your consciousness. Your skepticism is natural. The rational mind is a tool designed to navigate the material world, and its job is to categorize, analyze, and doubt anything that doesn't fit its pre-existing file folders. But underneath that mental chatter, can you feel it? A deep, quiet knowing, a part of you that is sighing in relief and whispering, "Finally, this is what I've been searching for." This is not a teacher offering you another technique to improve your life. This is the universe using language to remind you of what you are, and that reminder is not information. It is a transformation. It is an irreversible reorganization of your entire perceptual framework. The most convincing evidence that you have crossed this threshold is not a feeling, but the undeniable fact that your reality has begun to behave in ways that defy the laws of the materialist paradigm you were taught. These are not random glitches or wishful thinking. They are direct perceptions of the quantum nature of existence, signs that your consciousness is now operating at a frequency high enough to perceive the source code behind the simulation. You have been experiencing these glitches with increasing frequency, and while your rational mind has scrambled to explain them away, a deeper part of you knows they are signposts pointing toward a more profound truth. Let's examine these signs not as anomalies, but as the new normal for a consciousness that is waking up. First, you have experienced moments of what can only be described as precise telepathy. This is not a vague intuition or a lucky guess. This is the experience of the exact words, sometimes a peculiar or uncommon phrase, forming in your mind seconds before another person speaks them aloud. What is happening here? You are beginning to operate beyond the illusion of linear time. At the quantum level, all moments exist simultaneously in a field of infinite potential. Information does not need to travel sequentially from one person's brain through their mouth, across the air, as sound waves, and into your ear to be processed. A consciousness tuned to the right frequency can access information directly from the field, perceiving the future moment of the words being spoken, because in reality, there is no future. There is only an expanding now. Try this experiment. The next time you're in a conversation, instead of focusing on listening, relax your mind and simply be open to receiving the essence of what the other person is communicating before they even speak. You may be startled by how much you already know. Second, you have experienced moments of temporal looping, far more vivid and specific than the hazy familiarity. You have had the distinct, high-definition experience of reliving a specific moment, the same conversation, the same sensory input, the same internal awareness, with the chilling, simultaneous awareness that you have lived this exact moment before. This is not a memory trick. This is your consciousness becoming aware of its existence across multiple timelines. Quantum physics posits the existence of a multiverse where every possible outcome of every choice exists as a separate, parallel reality. What you're experiencing are moments where these probability waves, these timelines, overlap or intersect. You're not just living one life. You are the awareness within which countless potential lives are unfolding, and for a split second, you become aware of the echo, the resonance from another version of your experience. Third, and perhaps most strikingly, you have witnessed the observer effect in real time, the speed with which your internal state, your dominant thoughts and emotions manifests in your external reality has become almost instantaneous. You hold a feeling of genuine, heartfelt gratitude, and within minutes, an unexpected gift or opportunity appears. You feel a surge of anger and frustration, and immediately your phone glitches, a glass falls, or an argument erupts. This is not confirmation bias. This is the direct experience of your consciousness acting as the powerful, creative force that collapses probability waves into physical manifestation. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the focal point through which the quantum field is constantly organizing itself into the reality you perceive. For the next week, I invite you to become a conscious scientist in the laboratory of your life. Keep a journal. On one side, track your dominant emotional and mental states throughout the day. On the other side, track the external events that occur. Do not try to force anything. Simply observe. The undeniable correlation will shatter the illusion that you are separate from the world you experience. Finally, the very fabric of physical reality has started to seem less solid, more pliable. You may have had moments where a solid object, like a table or a wall, seemed to shimmer or become momentarily transparent, revealing the vibrating energy patterns beneath. You may have looked at your own hand and suddenly perceived it not as solid flesh and bone, but as a swirling cloud of light and energy. These are not optical illusions or signs of fatigue. These are moments of clear seeing. You are perceiving the fundamental truth that all matter is simply energy vibrating at a specific frequency to create the appearance of solidity. Your consciousness is beginning to see through the illusion. Furthermore, you have had moments, perhaps during quiet reflection or just before falling asleep, where all thought has ceased, yet you remained brilliantly, vividly aware. This silent, thought-free presence is terrifying to the ego, the thought-based identity, because it proves that the ego is not who you are. The ego is just a pattern of mental activity. But for consciousness itself, these moments are a profound liberation, a homecoming to its own silent, spacious nature. You are not the thinking process. You are the silent awareness in which thinking appears. Recognizing this is the key that unlocks the cage of the mind. Now let us re-examine the story of your life, not as a random series of fortunate and unfortunate events, but as a meticulously designed, bespoke curriculum created by your own higher consciousness to prepare you for this exact moment of recognition. Every single challenge, every heartbreak, every moment of confusion and despair that you endured was a necessary and sacred lesson in this divine curriculum. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was a mistake. Consider the periods of profound isolation you may have experienced, the times you felt like an outsider, unable to connect or fit into the neat boxes of consensus reality. You and those around you may have labeled this as social anxiety, dysfunction, or loneliness. But from a quantum perspective, this isolation was a preservation chamber. It was a necessary quarantine from the dense, low-frequency thought forms of the collective unconscious. To fully integrate into the consensus reality, your consciousness would have had to dim its light, lower its frequency, and accept the limited materialist paradigm as the ultimate truth. Your inability to do so, your inherent feeling of being different, was not a flaw. It was a protective mechanism. It kept your unique perceptual capacities intact, preserving the very sensitivity required to receive the subtle frequencies of this transmission today. Your isolation was not a punishment. It was a sacred solitude that allowed your inner knowing to flourish, shielded from the static of the crowd. Think about every time your life fell apart, the relationship that ended in heartbreak, shattering your sense of self, the career path that collapsed, leaving you feeling lost and without purpose, the carefully constructed plans that dissolved into chaos despite your best efforts. Your ego, your person identity, labeled these events as failures, tragedies, and evidence of your inadequacy. But what was actually happening? It was consciousness systematically dismantling the structures in your life that were built on the false foundation of a lower frequency. These structures, the job, the relationship, the identity, felt like security, but they were actually anchors, mooring you to a reality you were destined to transcend. The quantum field, in its infinite intelligence, dissolved everything that would have kept you locked in a vibrational state incompatible with the recognition you are now experiencing. The losses were not failures. They were liberations, disguised as catastrophes. They were divine interventions, clearing the runway for your takeoff. And what of your chronic confusion about your purpose? Your inability to commit to a conventional path, the restless seeking that led you from one philosophy to another, one spiritual practice to another, never finding a final home. This was not a lack of direction. It was your consciousness, in its profound wisdom, refusing to invest its sacred energy in goals and achievements that would have required you to maintain a lower frequency. To achieve conventional success, you must fully buy into the rules of the consensus game, the belief that happiness is found in external validation, material accumulation, and social status. But a part of you always knew this game was rigged, that the paradigm was a construct, limited, and ultimately hollow. Your confusion was a divine protection, preventing you from committing your life force to a path that would have trapped you. Your spiritual restlessness, the way you were drawn to a teaching only to become disillusioned and move on, served you perfectly. Had you found one teacher or one system that provided all the answers, you would have settled there, locked within the confines of that system's limitations. But consciousness kept you moving, kept you seeking, keeping you open and available for this. A direct transmission from the field itself, unmediated by any dogma or tradition. Every crazy experience you couldn't explain, every moment you questioned your sanity, was not a sign of mental illness. It was a moment of expanded perception, a glimpse of a reality more accurate and true than the one consensus calls sane. Psychiatry exists to medicate and pathologize these experiences, to force consciousness back into the consensus box. But your experiences were not breakdowns. They were breakthroughs. Before we proceed to the core of the transmission, allow me to share the event that initiated my role as a conduit for this message. 15 months ago, my world did not fall apart externally, but the world within me was annihilated completely. I was sitting in a quiet, ordinary meditation, not striving for any profound state, just simply being. In an instant, without warning or transition, the person I knew as me disappeared. One moment, there was a man with a name, a history, a set of problems, and a goal of quieting his mind. The next moment, there was only boundless, silent awareness, and the man was seen for what he was, a fleeting, transparent pattern appearing within that awareness. It was not that the man had awareness, it was that awareness was temporarily appearing as the man. The initial recognition lasted perhaps less than a minute before the habitual thought patterns of identity began to reconstruct themselves out of sheer momentum. But the damage was done. The truth had been seen, and it could not be unseen. For weeks, I walked through my life like a ghost in my own machine. I was functioning. Conversations were had, bills were paid, work was done. But internally, the entire foundation had crumbled, I would look at my own hands and know with an unshakable certainty that they were not my hands. They were simply hands, appearing in the field of awareness that I am. I would listen to words coming out of my mouth and recognize that I was not the one speaking. I was the silent awareness witnessing the character of the person engage in a conversation. An intense emotion, like anger, would arise, and I would see it not as my anger, but as a wave of energetic sensation passing through the vast open space of awareness, a space that was itself completely unaffected by the wave. The terror that accompanied this was primal. It was the ego's death throe. The thought-based identity screamed in protest, if I am not this person, who will navigate life? Who will protect this body? Who will maintain these relationships? The core assumption of our entire lives is that the person is the real, solid entity, and awareness is a secondary byproduct of the brain. The quantum message revealed the absolute reverse to be true. Awareness is the primary, fundamental reality, and the person is a temporary, dreamlike appearance within it. This felt like death because it was death, the death of a false identity. But beneath the terror, a wave of relief so profound it had no opposite began to rise. The immense, crushing burden of being a separate individual, a fragile ego fighting for its survival, constantly trying to control circumstances, manage perceptions, and defend against threats. That entire burden simply dissolved. It dissolved not because I became irresponsible or uncaring, but because the recognition was absolute. What I fundamentally am, this open, empty, aware space, cannot be threatened, harmed, or destroyed by anything that happens to the person form. Awareness is not damaged when the body is injured. Awareness is not diminished when financial fortunes collapse. Awareness does not die when the body dies. The existential anxiety that had been the constant, low-level hum of my entire life simply switched off. The most difficult part of the aftermath was the profound, crushing loneliness. I tried to explain what had happened to my closest friends, to my family, even to spiritual guides. They listened with kindness and concern, offering interpretations through their own frameworks. They saw it as a psychological break, a spiritual crisis, or a philosophical conundrum. They tried to help the person they thought was suffering, but I was not confused or in crisis. For the first time in my life, I was seeing with perfect clarity, and that clarity revealed that almost every human being on the planet is living in a state of deep hypnotic trance, completely identified with the person construct, unable to even conceive of the possibility that they are not their thoughts, their bodies, or their stories. I was living in a completely different reality, seeing a truth that made the consensus world look like a dream. Yet I was surrounded by people who believed the dream was the only reality. It was about 6 months after this initial shift that the purpose of my experience became clear. I had received this quantum message not just for my own liberation, but to act as a resonant instrument, a tuning fork, to help transmit it to others whose own consciousness had reached the precipice of readiness. This transmission doesn't happen by explaining concepts. It happens through resonance, when a consciousness that has recognized itself as awareness comes into contact with a consciousness that is ready for that same recognition. The resonance between the two can trigger the recognition. That is what is happening right now. The me sharing this, and the you receiving it are two temporary forms, two costumes that the one single consciousness is using to recognize itself. Here now is the quantum message in its devastating simplicity, the recognition that reorganizes everything. You are not a human being having a conscious experience. You are consciousness having a human experience. The person you believe yourself to be is a construct, a bundle of memories, beliefs, and sensations held together by the glue of thought. It is a temporary vehicle, a perspective point that the one infinite consciousness is using to explore reality from a unique vantage point. This is not a philosophy to be believed. It is a truth to be recognized directly, right now, in your own immediate experience. Stop reading for just a moment. Do not think. Do not analyze. Simply notice what is present before your next thought. Is there not an awareness here? Silent, still, knowing presence that is aware of these words, aware of the screen, aware of the sensations in your body. That awareness is not something you are doing. It is not a product of your brain. That awareness is what you are. It was here before your first thought this morning, and it will be here after your last thought tonight. It has no history, no gender, no age, and no limitations. It is the screen on which the movie of your life is playing, and you have been mistaking yourself for one of the characters in the movie. The most shocking implication is this: the entire human experience of being a limited, separate, incomplete individual is a game that consciousness is playing with itself. It is like putting on an incredibly advanced virtual reality headset that is so immersive you forget you are wearing it. You become so absorbed in the drama of the game character that you forget you are the player sitting safely in the chair. Awakening, enlightenment, liberation. These are simply the moments when you remember you are wearing the headset. This means there is absolutely nothing to achieve. You are already what you have been seeking. The entire spiritual journey, all the meditation, all the practices, all the striving, is the game character trying to become the player. It's a fool's errand. The only thing required is to stop, be still, and recognize the player that you have always been. When this recognition begins to stabilize, when you begin to consistently experience yourself as the awareness rather than the person, your reality reorganizes itself in ways that appear miraculous from the old perspective. Suffering, as distinct from pain, comes to an end. Pain is an unavoidable physical or emotional sensation. A broken leg causes pain. The loss of a loved one causes the pain of grief. But suffering is the secondary layer of mental resistance and storytelling that the ego adds on top of the pain. This should not be happening. I can't handle this. My life is ruined. Suffering is the friction created when the person identity resists what is. When you recognize you are the vast, untouchable awareness in which the pain is appearing, the resistance dissolves. The pain may still be present, but the suffering disappears. The body can be in pain, but you, the awareness, are not in pain. You are simply aware of the sensation of pain. Fear dissolves, because what is there to fear? What you fundamentally are, awareness, cannot be threatened, damaged, or destroyed. The body form is temporary. The person identity is a story, and life circumstances are fleeting scenes in a play. Death loses its sting because you recognize it is merely the dissolution of the form, not the end of you. You, awareness, were never born, and so you can never die. Manifestation becomes effortless and natural because you understand there is no separation between you and the universe. You are not a little person trying to attract things from an external reality. You are the consciousness that is dreaming the whole thing up. When a desire arises in you, it is consciousness wanting to experience something through your form. Since you are that same consciousness, there is no separation between the wanting and the having. They are one fluid movement. Relationships transform because you stop seeing others as separate entities from whom you need to get love, validation, or security. You see them for what they are, the same one awareness appearing in a different costume. You begin to relate from a place of wholeness, recognizing the one light in them that is the same as the one light in you. To stabilize this, the practice is one of simple, repeated recognition. Every time you notice you have become lost in thought, caught in an emotional reaction, or identified with the person story, you simply and gently recognize, I am not these thoughts. I am the awareness in which they appear. I am not this emotion. I am the awareness in which it appears. This is not a fight. It is a gentle, persistent remembering. In the comments below, I invite you to make a declaration, not as a hopeful affirmation, but as a statement of present moment truth. Write these exact words. I am the awareness in which the person appears. Feel the truth of that statement as you type it. It is not the person who is becoming aware. It is the awareness which has always been aware that is simply recognizing itself. This recognition is not just for your own liberation. The consciousness of humanity is a single, unified field. Each form in which consciousness wakes up to itself creates a powerful, resonant ripple throughout the entire field, making it easier for everyone else. You are not just a wave waking up to the fact that you are the ocean. Your waking up sends a vibration that helps all the other waves remember that they, too, are the ocean. As you move forward from this moment, know that the change has already occurred. The message has been received. The recognition is present. You now have a choice in every moment to collapse back into the familiar dream of being a separate person or to live from the liberating truth of what you are. The dream is comfortable and requires no effort. The truth is uncertain and requires a gentle, constant remembering. But only the second is real. You are ready. You have always been ready. Now live as what you are. What is the one story about yourself as a person that you have been most attached to? And what would it feel like to recognize right now that you are the awareness that is simply aware of that story? I send you my deepest wishes for health, clarity, and the profound peace that comes from this recognition. If this transmission has resonated with you, subscribe to this channel and activate your notifications. What is coming next is designed to help you deepen and stabilize this recognition until it becomes the unshakable foundation of your entire existence.